Hi everyone and welcome to my tutorial on web scraping. Now before we even start, I like to mention that web scraping is not the same as web crawling. Web crawling is what search engines does to index the websites, to search them, to provide information. They look into the words, but they're not going to store the data in a database to use them later for different purposes. While in web scraping, we do that. We store the data, we create a database normally based on that data. Now in this video, we are going to cover web scraping and not web crawling. You may use this to test your website's data, create a database for whatever reason you want, but please make sure that if you are using if you are going to scrape a website, you have the permission to that, or there might be consequences. So do not download, do not push too much force on a website. It will slow down if you are downloading a lot of data from a website. Also, the website owner may or may not even like you to download the data. So that was the quick note that I would like to mention. Now enough talking, let's dig into the code part. So at top over here we have the libraries. Before you do the coding, please make sure that you have installed all these libraries. I have a note of all the libraries and what purpose I'm using these for. One big important one is Beautiful Soup. Even though we are not going to really use the nice functions that Beautiful Soup has for web scraping, but this is a good library to have it, and you can dig more into that. And if you have questions, please leave them in comments. I will do that. I will answer those questions. Let's start from the main function. First of all, we are going to pick a target. What we are going to scrape. I picked IMDb because most people gonna like this. I thought so. Let's get into IMDb's website and see how the data looks like in that. imdb.com. So what I am going to do is I am going to scrape the data, store the topics, the titles, get one of the two images, whichever we prefer. I picked the first one. Store the short info that we have down here. Download the link. So if you want to scrape one level deeper, all what we're gonna need to do is get into that link and scrape the deeper page one more time, or as many times as you want, basically. So if you have Google Chrome or Mozilla, these are going to be good web browsers to work for scraping with. I'm right clicking on this and going to inspect. In inspect part, what we have. So we're gonna need to find a pattern in the data that the designer stored in this website. So if you look at this, as soon as you right click in this and click on inspect, you're gonna see that, okay, so we have this title inside an H3, and that H3 is in an A container that's in a span and all the way up. What we need to do is find a unique pattern in the data over here. This is going to be the most important part. So you're going to need to look over this and see what pattern is this following. So what is common between this one and, let's say, this one, which we are going to also store, and also this one. So if it is same between this and this one, and we don't want the top one, we're going to need to find a unique pattern between this. What we are going to use for this purpose is regular expression. So after we find the pattern, we are going to dig into these tags and get our data from that. So for example, on this one, we said it is an H3 inside an A, and honestly I did this before, I made it ready. So we have an article div over here. Inside that article, we have a div which the class is article. So this is a good start. If I check this one, this is obviously not going to be a class of article. This is a video model, the class is over here. You can also use a style or whatever you find, depend on the target website that you have. So in the code, I am going to get the URL, then I'm going to open a file. This is going to be a text file which we are going to store our XML database as a text file over here. We're going to need to read the web page roughly, like this is going to be the text, this is going to be all the source what we have. Then we are going to store this content in a tree, similar to what we have over here. After that, we are going to use regular expression to read the data that we want. So for title, as I mentioned before, we have a span. This is the shortest path that I found. You can go from article and go down, which we're gonna see that in image. That was the shortest path that I found, which is longer than any of the other ones. But for the title, I found that if I click on here, I have a span which has a class of one line, and this class is unique only to the part that I want. So I was so lucky. This is so short, I can just go to the span and search for all the spans that has a class of one line, and inside that there's a container. Inside that A container I have an H3, and the text of that H3 is all what I want. So I was so lucky over there, and here is my code for that. Double slash over here, search for all the tag that I want. My tag is span. So I'm looking for all the spans which are what? Which all has a class of one line. Inside that I have an A container. Inside that A I have an H3, and I'm getting the text of that H3. I'm explaining this because if you're not familiar with regular expression, this can be hopefully helpful. Similarly, next one is going to be my link. So I also want to know what is the link. So if later I want to get into this link and scrape the web page which is going from this page, from this link, I can do that. So again, right click on this. What do I have over here? Just one level higher than my H3 is an href. So I do the same thing. I have a span which class has one line. Inside that I have an A, and I'm getting href. So the little small @ sign that we have that I'm using before href, the reason that I'm using is because it is an inner part. So if it is inside this A, you use href. So for style you can use the same thing and so on, you know. So over here you can use, actually this is the only thing. So yeah, for href you can use this. For similar purposes you can use that @ sign. For object image, this is a longer example. So let's see, why am I using that line tag? When I right click and inspect on the image, what do I have? So I have a class of primary image, but this primary image, the pri-image class, is also being used over here for these images. I don't want these images, so I need to find a different thing. So I need to go higher. What do I have? So I have Ninja image, first image. This is a thing that probably I can use. This differs from this one to this one. This is the last image. Let's take a quick look. So this is the class Ninja image, last image. So I can differ from these two, but it's still I cannot use these because they can be similar to the other ones. So for what I had to do is I had to find a div which has a class of article. Inside that div, all of those divs, I'm again looking with double slash for all the divs that has a class of Ninja image. So double slash is coming helpful even if it is in middle of the regular expression. And so far you can see I'm using @src to get the source value. And at the end I'm getting a content of a paragraph container for my info, which is this part. Inspect, you see that there's a paragraph, and class is again unique, so I was lucky again and I could use that. After doing all of these are going to store an array or a list in Python for us. So I have a list for my titles, a list for link, for image, and for short info. I'm exporting this. I have a function called XML export. We are going to talk about that. I'm passing all these arrays and the XML database file, the text file that I opened up over here somewhere. So yeah, right here. So this is the text file that I opened. I'm passing this file because I opened it, and when I'm done with this, I'm closing this. Please don't forget to close your data file. Let's take a quick look at what we have in the export function. I have an attribute counter, attribute ID. I'm using this as the ID of my XML file. Writing an other tag for all the data that I have, and I'm closing it at the end of the function. I'm getting into each single element of the list for each of them and writing them down. So in a case that you don't have the picture, let's say some of the tags don't have the picture, some of the items, objects that you have don't have a picture, you need to deal with them. In my case, all of them had all the attributes, so I didn't have to worry about that. But if you have, if you're dealing with a case that data are missing for some cases, you need to figure out how to solve it. There are going to be a lot of details specific to the website that you are going to scrape. I cannot cover all of that, but if you have any questions regarding to any special case, please feel free to leave a comment. I will do my best to answer as quick as possible. Okay, let's go back to the code. So I'm writing these in this order, opening the tag, closing it for each of these, adding the data, and my database is gonna be done. So up to this part, we have the database. We are all good. The other concept that I found relative, and I would like to cover that, is downloading images. Normally, you can do this with a simple request for image, but many web servers block you, so it is not that easy if the web server starts blocking you. This a small trick that I am using over here in my function, image download function, can become very handy. So I have an image function. Let's see what I have into that. Again, I have a counter for my ID. This is also going to be the name of image that I have. I'm passing the object image list to this function. Inside this, I'm going to move over all the elements of this list, and this is just for my test purposes. I can get rid of this. I'm going to try if it is possible to read this image. If it is not, I need to print this address and make sure that the image address is fine. If the website has some sort of blocking and it doesn't let you to have more than somewhat request in a second, in a minute, or whatever, you can use the sleep function, which I imported over here. Import time, you can use that, and you can use the sleep, so it would be fine again. This is one trick. The other one is if website realizes that you are a robot, they would block you immediately. Many web servers does it. So you need to pretend that you are not a robot. Your code is not a robot. What you can do is you can use a web browser's header. So what I'm using here is I'm pretending to be Mozilla 5. It would let me to download the image and read it byte by byte, and store it as a file. So I'm opening a image file, storing it, closing it, moving to the next one. I hope that this gonna be helpful for you. And so far, this is the scraping program. Let me run it and see how it's gonna work. Since I'm using a image folder over here, you're gonna need to create an empty folder called images, if I remember right. Yes, images. And then open the terminal, Python 3 scrape template .py. Let's give it a few seconds, and right over here we have the database created. Let's go to the folder that we just created, and the images are here. So this program worked fine. I'm going to leave the code on my website available for you guys. I'm going to put the link on this video, and if you have any questions, again, please don't hesitate to put that in comments. I would do my best to answer them quickly. If you like the video, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much. Have a great day.